What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in this week. It's called ISO Cam. So it's just me this week on the ISO. So of course I put the thumbnail Cam Thomas. Always got to show some love to the young goat. But on a real note today, welcome to Too Generic. Thank you for tuning in. It's just me today, and we're gonna get into pretty much the same topics that we usually get into. You know, me and Ritchie just stick to what we're interested in and what we cover and what we care about and what we know of. You know, I'm not about to go on something and start telling you baseball bets and all sorts of crazy stuff. That's out of my wheelhouse. But stuff that I do like, we're gonna talk. Obviously, the Sun trade, huge trade for the Connecticut Sun. They only traded back a little bit in the draft. I'll get into that a little bit later. We had UFC Fight Night last night, back-to-back cards headlining by UFC women. And I know that brings like a little bit less buzz to the normies. But overall, it was a decent card. Didn't get to catch every single fight. Watched a couple clips this morning of some fights that I didn't even watch or didn't care to watch. But there were some great finishes. So we'll get into that. We got the Jake Paul versus Mike Perry fight. Now, that was something else. I kind of expected a different result. I can't lie. But it is what it is. You know, Jake Paul just keeps knocking out these former UFC guys. And on the last note, and the most important note, I went to Summer League. I think I spoke a little bit on it last week, maybe a lot on it last week. But we're going to wrap it up because today, as I believe is the last qualifying day to get into the finals, which the finals are Monday, tomorrow. And we'll see who the Summer League champs are. I have my hunch. It's the Miami Heat. I think the Miami Heat are probably the best Summer League team. You got Khalil Ware, who just got drafted at Indiana. Dude's a double-double machine, blocking shots, and he finds his way to the free throw line. You got Jaime Jaquez, who's incredible. We already know that. He was, second or third in the league, third in Rookie of the Year voting. And then we have Josh Christopher playing out of his mind. Incredible player. And he was really slept on, sold off, just not thought of being a good player. The Heat take a flyer on him in Summer League, and it seems to be like he's a more complete player than he's ever been. All right. Well, now that's the rundown of the topics today. A little short summary. Let's dive into it. The Sun trade, Mariah Jefferson, Rachel Banham, the 2025 first, and then a 2026 first round swap. So with the first round pick in 2025, it's a loaded class this year. I felt like last year was obviously a better class, maybe the best class of all time, just because you have two rookies that are really changing up the game. You have obviously Caitlin Clark, broke the assist record. She also broke the turnover record, which kind of happens. I mean, we've seen this in the NBA, and we still gave MVPs for it. You have James Harden, who led the league in assists. His MVP season, I believe he led the league in turnovers that year. Same with Russell Westbrook. I believe the year he got the triple-double, he also broke the record for most turnovers ever in a season. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, we can't say, like, oh, Caitlin Clark, like, she's getting all these assists, but she's sloppy with the rock. It kind of just comes with the territory of passing that much and putting your players in position to score. We've seen the threads and the videos of Caitlin Clark's teammates that can't handle her passes. Some of that is on Caitlin. Some of that is on the teammates. But regardless, when you are that good of a playmaker and a high-risk, high-reward type player, things are going to happen and things are going to go wrong. When you swing for the fences, there's a chance that, you swing and miss, especially when you're swinging as hard as you can and you're going all out. So it's hit or miss, and it's a make or miss league as the NBA is and as the WNBA is. But then you got Angel Reese, who also broke the all-time double-double record consecutive games, which was incredible. Once she broke it, it got a little gimmicky where she started hunting and extending the record. And, she got bailed out by the refs one game. Tina Charles fouls her. It wasn't really a foul. They were up 10 with 8 seconds left. She shouldn't even be taking that shot attempt, let alone the refs should be bailing her out and doing all of that. Yeah, she's shooting like 25% from the field. The refs really bailed her out there, let's be real. And then also the other game where she was hunting for it, and then the Liberty quadruple teamer, and she's still trying to put up the shot down and out. And I don't know. Some of it is a little bit kind of goes against the spirit of the game, you know? And it's a little bit of stat hunting. We've seen this in the past with different players in the NBA. Ricky Davis is the one that really stands out to me when he grabbed the rebound and then put up a shot on his own rim and then grabbed the rebound again and hoped he got 2 rebounds, even though he shot on his own rim. Would have got him the triple-double, but the NBA went back and retroactively took that rebound back, and he didn't get that triple-double. He didn't deserve it, you know? This one, she kind of circumvented the rules. She got fouled. You can't take back free throws. So it is what it is. Other than that, like I said, this is a really deep class. You got Rakia Jackson, who's killing it. Cameron Brink was killing it, doing a great job starting, and then tore her ACL. That was really depressing. She tore that actually at the Connecticut Sun Arena. My friend Brando was in attendance, and then also my little brother Ritchie, who's the co-host of this show typically, but he's working OT because Microsoft went down, Amazon got all messed up, so then he gets called in to do mandatory overtime because, you know, the system's all messed up and they have to catch up with all their orders. So that's why I'm solo today, because Microsoft crashed, and yeah, shout out to Bill Gates again, causing pandemonium throughout the world. Shout out to him. But back to the trade. I don't think this is actually that bad of a trade in terms of the picks. We'll get to the players in a second. But the picks alone. So the Suns trade a first-round pick, right, to the Sky. 2025 first-round pick. They get in return a 2025 second-round pick. But if you think about the Sun, right, they're in second place. So out of a 12-team I see Chewy's comment. I saw Aubrey Plaza tore ACL at the Celeb knockout game at WNBA All-Star. Yeah, she did. She tore ACL. She was sidelined, getting the real celebrity treatment. She deserves it. She's a dog. You know, she got hurt out there, tearing her ACL, potentially ending her celebrity WNBA All-Star career. She's probably not going to go back and play again. I feel bad for her. But at the same time, she earned her stripes. She got everybody's respect now. You go out there, bust your butt, and you get hurt on the front lines, everyone's going to respect you. So shout out to Aubrey Plaza, already like a fan favorite. Her humor is hilarious. It's very relatable to like the common person. But yeah, Chewy, great comment there. I was about to forget that. That was a hilarious little segment of All-Star Weekend. Alicia Gray took the skills competition and the three-point competition, though Caitlin Clark and Ionescu were not in either one of them. But still, definitely not going to give her an asterisk. I don't want to, even though I kind of just did. Great performance by her. She really is the all-round player. A few years ago, they asked Asia Wilson, you know, who is the most underrated player in the WNBA? Her former college teammate and like one of her best friends, she said is Alicia Gray. But Asia Wilson's not lying. You know what I'm saying? This is the best player in the world, the best women's player in the world, and she's not about to just sugarcoat shit. She said it straight up. Alicia Gray is underrated, and she needs to be valued more. And I think this was the perfect platform for her to really like show her skills. And she won the skills competition, won the three-point competition. You know, she's really stepped her game up. Ryan Howard's been out, in and out of the lineup, got hurt. You got Jordan Canada literally in and out of the lineup, was out the majority of the first half of the season, comes back for like 3 games, breaks her finger. She'll be back after the Olympic break. But Alicia Gray's been carrying the squad on her back with a damn near retired Tina Charles. I mean, 2 years ago, people thought she was done, and she's still going around. Now she's starting in the league again. She bounced around the Phoenix. She bounced to Seattle for a little bit. You know, she's just all over the place. I think she went to the Mystics. But I'm glad to see she's still around. I love Tina Charles, one of my favorite players ever at UConn, one of my favorite players of all time. It's Maya Moore, Tamika Catchings, Tina Charles. My top 3 favorite women players ever. And then I'll throw in a couple little like role players. You know, back in the day, Ivory Latta had all the handles, would break ankles, drop girls all the time. She was legit. But NBA hasn't played D the way the women do in the All-Star game. I appreciate. Yeah, honestly, Caitlin Clark looked great in it. But overall, incredible game, awesome defense and everything through it. Very competitive. But I'm kind of upset that, you know, we lost essentially. Like, that was our Olympic team that lost out there. I thought that was impossible for them to lose. Like the fact that the B team is going to come up and beat our Olympic team, our backup, our select team, if you will. That's what they call it in the men's side. They call it the select team that comes out and basically is like the practice or scout team. If I don't know if you played like high school football or whatever, they usually refer to the backup, the practice squad as like, the scout team. So we lost to the scout team. That's not good. That's really not good. Whether they came out, really flat, and then the scout team came out very inspired and, like kind of slighted with a little chip on their shoulder that they didn't get picked to be on the Olympic squad. They definitely made their presence felt, and they won. They won by a big margin. This wasn't like a buzzer beater. This game was over, 8-point victory. I think it was about 8 points. But for the most part, yeah, it was a bigger gap at the end of the game to where it didn't feel that close. It felt like that select team busted their butt. Yeah, the select team has beat the men's team before, but to do that all-star weekend right before the Olympics are about to start this like within 30 days, and our Olympic team just lost to the select team on national television at the all-star weekend. Like this is supposed to be their big event, and the team that they presented to the world is not the best team that we could build. So I do see a little issue with that, and I'm kind of concerned. Belgium is highly slept on, but you're getting Meesman, Van Loo. Damn, there's one other big in there that's incredible, and I'm forgetting. But yeah, there's 4 players for Belgium that I think, they got a reality check for sure, and I hope that wakes them up. And Asia, she gets a little more aggressive because I like when Asia Wilson's aggressive. I think, like I said, I think she's the best player in the world, and when she's attacking, she's unstoppable. She's got every move. She's got every counter to everything you try to throw at her. Double don't matter. She's stronger. She's faster. She's just a beast. You said Segrist? What about Segrist? Oh, yeah. I kind of diverted what I was talking about. But back on this, first-round pick, right, in 2025. The Sun are one of the best teams. They're going to pick at the end of the draft. The Sky, especially trading Marina Mabry, are going to get worse after All-Star, after the Olympic break. They're going to get worse. Sun are going to get better. So that means their first-round pick is going to get worse, and that second-round pick is going to get better. You know what I'm saying? So the Sun got this 2025 second-round pick in exchange of the first-round pick. So the Sun are basically trading back, I want to say 4 picks or less. If you understand how the draft works, if they're drafting 11th in the first round and the Sky are drafting second, that means the pick is going to go like this. Sun at 11. 12th will go, let's say, to Liberty. First pick go to the Mystics in the first pick in the second round. Then the second pick goes to the Sky. So you got the Sun went from here to here. Not that far back. It really isn't a far trade back. And I think people aren't acknowledging really what happened, and it's not that bad of a trade. They're not giving up too much assets. And if anything, this is a very expensive team to keep together. And you have less contract obligations when you draft in the second round versus the first round. So you're picking, instead of an 11th pick, you're getting the 14th pick, and you could pay her a lot less. You know what I'm saying? And there's just a lot less expectations for that second round pick versus a first round pick. There's not as much pressures to put her out there, the fans, everything else. Like a second round pick just comes with lesser, like I said, expectations. So I think it's pretty solid. They get a role person no matter what. I mean, you're not going to get the best of the best, the cream of the crop at the 14th pick in the WNBA draft. There's a chance you could always get a sleeper, of course. But trading back 3 spots to save a little bit for contract next year and at the same time get better this year, that's huge. And then next year is a 2026 swap, or 2 years from then, right? So if you think about it, it might not be the worst situation. Juju Watkins is still going to be at USC 2 years from now. I think she'll come out. She may come out her junior year. Who knows? Then the 2026 pick may be a little iffy, but it's still a swap. So if the Sky are still worse than the Sun, they don't trade the pick. Then the Suns get to keep their pick. You get what I'm saying? So this isn't the worst overall trade. And if anything, we could revert back to my article. I don't know if anyone has read my article. We could start here. Share screen. I published this article June 19th, 2024, so about a month ago. And it was about the best and the worst contracts in the WNBA. So first, we could go to the Chicago Sky. One, I said this months ago, even before Kennedy Carter, got her all-time scoring record. I think she had 36 points in a game, something like that. But this was prior to that. And I was saying the best contract for the Chicago Sky was Kennedy Carter on basically a minimum and for $60,000. Like that's insane for what Kennedy Carter is bringing to that team, the scoring and everything else, the leadership, the camaraderie. She had that little beef with Caitlin Clark. She had the little shove that got upgraded after the fact, and she got demonized. But then she's also there with Angel Reese, who also has the beef with her. It's kind of fueling it, but they're also like great villains too. They're not bums where it's like, who are these haters? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't say they're haters because they're actually pretty damn good. But let's move on to, so they didn't dump really anything bad. Brianna Turner, they didn't dump a bad contract. They kept their best contract, which is good. But we moved to the Sun, who, one, kept their best contract, but dumped their worst contract. I love Mariah Jefferson. I even gave it a clause, calling Mariah Jefferson the worst contract. What I think is, it was a little seniority. You know what I'm saying? Ty Harris earned that starting spot. No matter what Mariah Jefferson's contract is or whatever, you have Ty Harris coming off of leading the league in three-point percentage last year. And then you also have Mariah Jefferson being an undersized guard on a defensive-minded team. The identity just isn't there. Mariah Jefferson is a connector, a ball distributor, a very efficient player. But at the same time, she has a lot of defensive liabilities. She's small. She's very quick. But she doesn't really match what that team does. It's more of a slow-paced, isolation, half-court team. Mariah Jefferson thrives in a free-flowing offense that's really like a pace and space, 7 seconds or less. That's Mo Jeff. She wants to be in transition. She loves just the up and down, and she's great at that. She's, like I said, she's really speedy, quick. She's light. She's small in frame. But to what they want to do, they need somebody with a little more size, a little more heft. And Ty Harris has been bringing that. And then at the same time, they trade for Rachel Banham or sign her in the offseason, getting her from the Lynx. And this is a legend over here at the Connecticut Sun. She would always come off the bench and just be the ultimate spark plug. She was with the Sun for about 5-6 years prior to her going to the Lynx. So this was a homecoming for Rachel Banham, but she's about half of the player she used to be. She already wasn't the best defender. Now she's coming off injuries from the Lynx. She's a little older. She's still got the strap. I mean, she was seen. She knocked down 8 threes right before she got traded to the Sky. But overall, this is a big win for the Connecticut Sun. And we could get out of that part now. But an absolute huge win for the Sun. Let me take you down kind of just the Marina Mabrey rabbit hole. She's 8th in makes and 7th in attempts in threes. So this is something that I always tell people to kind of open their eyes about Cam Thomas. ISO Cam. This is the ISO Cam episode, so I'm about to go off and I'm including Cam Thomas in it. But one of my main points in that he's highly slept on is that he's tied for 22nd or 23rd in the league in points, and there's 30 teams in the league. So that means he's a top 30 scorer, which means he's a top, like, you get what I'm saying? There's 30 teams. He's a top 25 guy. So no matter what team you put him on the 30 teams, he's a top 30 scorer. You get what I'm saying? So when you talk about Marina Mabrey, and she's 8th in the league in threes in a 12-woman league or a 12-team league, You got to think about it. She's the 8th best three-point shooter in a 12-team league, which means she's elite. She's at the top of her class. If you are the 8th best shooter in a 12-team league, you're at the top because you're better than 4 other teams' best starters. You know what I'm saying? So, boom, you got Marina Mabrey, who's, like I said, 8th in attempts. Oh, 8th in makes, 7th in attempts. Joining a team who's got Bonner, who's the best three-point shooter on the squad. She's 18th in makes, which is below 12. So that means every team has a starter who's a better three-point shooter than her, and then has bench players who are better and more voluminous three-point shooters and makers at 18. She's 14th in attempts. So there's still 12 more starters plus some that average more attempts. And this is what leads the Connecticut Sun to being 10th in the league in three-pointers overall. Adding Marina Mabrey alone makes them 7th in threes, in makes. So you go from 10th to 7th. And still that's not even the best because you're in second place. So they're doing all of this with a defensive identity. Thank you, King Brett. Much love for tuning in. Thank you. I appreciate the view, appreciate the comments. And stay tuned. I got some more. But yeah, you got 10th in the league, now moving up to 7th in the league in threes. I don't know what the lineup is going to be, and I guess we could kind of look back towards, what do they say, Mabrey on a team that didn't take or make any threes. Right, and this is coming at the same time as the Sky were last in the league in threes. And she alone makes the 10th team move to 7. So this goes to show you the spacing issue that's going on in Chicago, and I understand them bringing in Banham, and she's good because she's an off-ball three-point scorer, which I think is more conducive to their offense. Right now, you have Lindsey Allen playmaking, dishing. You got Kennedy Carter slashing, scoring, and she could always hit the kick out. You don't need Mabrey, who's more of a movement shooter. She could shoot off the bounce. She could shoot off the catch. She could do all things. So I think that's actually more beneficial towards the Suns' play style versus the Sky. The Sky right now, they want to slash and kick. Marina Mabrey's good at that, but the problem is who's she going to slash and kick to? You going to slash and kick to Cardozo in the corner? No. You going to slash and kick to Reese? No. Carter? No. She averages under a 3 a game. I think she averages like 0.2 3-point attempts. Not even makes. Attempts. So Kennedy Carter, I mean, she's a 20-plus point game scorer right now, but she doesn't shoot threes. She's not giving you the spacing. Lindsey Allen is not a three-point shooter. So you're going to have Diamond DeShields come in, and there's going to be no threes at all for the most part because Diamond's more of an athlete than anything. And then who else are you going to put? Michaela Onyenware, who's not that great of a shooter either. She's like a lesser version, a Walmart version of Diamond DeShields. So, like, you're not getting this spacing from anywhere, but also at the same time, like, if they really just want to pound the paint and go for twos, they can, but it's a math problem. The only three-point shooter you have on your team is Dana Evans, and now she's coming off the bench because Lindsey Allen took her spot. So there is no spacing whatsoever on the Sky, and it is what it is. But what Marina Mabrey was doing, I guess, just wasn't fitting, and maybe there was a personnel issue, personality. It's funny that she's going to the Sun, though, where she could potentially be taking Dejanay Carrington's starting spot, potentially, because I don't think Ty Harris should lose her spot. She's an incredible point guard, and she sets up everything that what they do. You got Burton behind her. What you're doing with Mabrey is going to be kind of an interesting thing, because would you want to replace Dejanay Carrington? She was like 6th Woman of the Year last year, and then now she earned her starting spot. I called her the best contract. Yeah, I call the Michaela Onyenware a Walmart version. She is. She's a lesser, watered-down version of Diamond DeShields. Diamond DeShields is an elite athlete. Onyenware is as well, but she's a little bit less than that. She's a little bit less aggressive and a little bit less skilled than Diamond DeShields. What was I just doing? Oh, man, your comment, the Walmart version, set me off. But Mabrey, I really think her and Dejanay, they have personal beef. I could show you like 5-6 different clips of them beefing on the court. Like there's a fight almost every time. So they really have some personal beef. Now Mabry is either her backup or starting over her. So I don't know what that's going to be like. I don't know if that was just business and they could kind of settle their personal differences or whatever it may be. But there has been some beef there. And now they share the same position on the same team. And Dejanay Carrington is not lighting it up from 3 this year. She's struggling. And Mabry is not struggling. I'll just say that. But Dejanay is taking a step in every other way. Her transition buckets, her change of speed, and she just brings something different that this team really needs. She helps out in transition because you're not going to see the transition from Brianna Jones, Alyssa Thomas, and everything else. They're just not those type of players, but Dejanay is fast. Like, she is fast. She used to play football, like, with boys, padded up and everything. Like, she's a dog. I really love Dejanay Carrington. She brings the identity that the Sun need. But then Mabry brings a whole different level, you know? So I think Mabry might be 6-man or 6-player, 6-woman, however you want to classify it. You get what I'm saying. She's going to come off the bench and be the number 1 option. That's the best bet, in my opinion. You don't want to mess up this chemistry. You don't want Dejanay Carrington checked out once the playoffs come, all that. And this team, like I said, with Mariah Jefferson, is built on seniority. Ty Harris was putting in work. For the 2 years that she's been there, she earned that starting role, and her efficiency spoke for that. Dejanay, from the draft, 4 years straight, grinding, earned that starting role. Yeah, leave Carrington, don't mess with the chemistry, becomes the monk. But I mean, Mabry, like, everything flows through her. She's about a 6-foot wing. She's huge. She's really lanky too. People sleep on it. Like, the girl's a beast. I like what Mabry brings. So her coming off the bench, oh my God. And a way better option than Banham coming off the bench, because Banham still has to be created for. Mabry, she could hit the corner 3, wing 3, off the dribble, don't matter. She can facilitate. She could be that initiator of offense. Now that you have Mariah Jefferson shipped out, and then Veronica Burton is the backup, Veronica Burton's not much of a playmaker as a point guard. She's a defender, and she's a play finisher. She runs hard, all that other stuff. So now you have Burton, who's a defender, with Mabry. And I like that even more. I think that second lineup is going to be a killer, especially in the playoffs. Killer. And then we move on to, what is it? This last stat. 50% of Mabry's points come from the 3-point line. That's impressive. I looked at Banham's stats. Banham's are about 70%, but she doesn't shoot with volume, and she doesn't play a lot, and she doesn't really give too much other than 3-point shooting. So then you got also Mariah Jefferson. I think was around like 45% of her points come from 3, but she wasn't playing. She started the year hurt. She didn't even play in the beginning because she had a hurt ankle from preseason. And then now she broke her thumb or her wrist. She just got some surgery. So she's been hurt twice already. She's got this inflated contract from being on the Mercury last year that had a lot of cap space. And they overspent because Ishbia bought the team. He's seen that she dropped the triple-double for the Lynx. And he gave her the big bag. He gave her $500,000 for 3 years. It's about $150,000 per year to be on the Mercury. Then gets traded to the Sun. I thought it was cool at the time. But, yeah, overinflated contract with a team that already is going through contract issues for next season, who they're going to re-sign. This could be a smart move. You know, if Bonner leaves or retires and Alyssa Thomas wants to move teams next year, Brianna Jones is an unrestricted free agent. There's a lot of contract issues for the Sun. And if you could figure out a way to maybe pass the torch after this season and, you know, they leave, the Stars leave, they kind of have to do a little rebuild and hit a reset. You got Dejanay, and then you got Mabry, who could probably be the 3. That's something you could build off of in the future. And then in 2 years, potentially you aim for Juju Watkins, because I think the Sun are about to blow it up after next season. This is all the chips pushed in the middle for this year. All the chips are there. Sun win, it's championship or bust. Yeah, that's pretty much my take on the whole pick. And on the whole trade. Maybe to the Sun, big time move for winning now. And then the Sky tanking to get a great pick next year. And they'll also have, so let's say they get the third pick and then they have the 11th pick from the Sun. Potentially, they could trade up to 2 or 1 if they trade 3 and 11. So now they got some movement to even, go up. They got something. They have some wiggle room. So I love what the Sky did. I love what the Sun did. Sun win now, Sky win, in the future, and get their picks. It's awesome. Moving on to the UFC Fight Night. I feel like this time I barely seen tweets on it. I barely seen anything on it, but I checked in throughout the night. Trey Ogden got a W. People may not know who he is, but about 4 fights ago, he fought Ignacio Bahamondes, and oh my God, that was a fight. Because Ignacio, he's a warrior. That dude's just going to throw hands the whole time. He's a fun fighter like Diego Lopez or what's his name? Just brawlers like, you could say Robbie Lawler. Like guys that just hop in the ring and scrap. They're just going to throw hands. Masvidal. People love Masvidal forever. Still do. Goes in there and just fights. They're not worried about takedowns. They're throwing kicks and hands. It's almost like a kickboxing match. But that's what's fun because there is always the threat of the takedown. There's the cage. There's everything that you could use. But it's fun when you just go in there and fight like you're in a phone booth. And that's who these guys fight like. And Trey Ogden went the distance with Bahamondes. And like I said, Bahamondes is a scary dude. So he went the distance with him. He took the L, but he's been on a win streak. And he's fighting good. I'm rooting for Trey Ogden. Who knows what he's going to match up into next after you have a great performance against Bahamondes and then you have a win streak after. So good luck to him. Miranda Maverick was my lock of the night. I can't believe she was on the prelim card. I think she's a great fighter. And, yeah, went 3 rounds, went the distance. For the most part, that's what I expected. She doesn't seem to finish too many fights, but I knew she was going to win. No matter what, knew the money line on Maverick was going to hit no matter what. Usman lost, opened the card again. He's always the first fight on the prelim just so people tune in. Like, just you want to see Kamaru Usman's little big brother, Muhammad Usman? Tune in. That's pretty much how they set it up. And then they want you to watch the rest of the prelim and then, of course, the whole main card. So it's marketed well, but he's been losing the past couple prelims, so it's not as fun. It's more fun when he's winning them, and you're like, hey, Usman's brother, let's see what he could do. But yeah, he's just been taking L's. Bruno Silva messed me up because this is a different Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva lost a few weeks ago, and the picture was gray on Google. And when I was seeing the fight card, I'm like, Bruno Silva's fighting again? He just lost. Why was he fighting? So I got kind of confused with that, and I thought Bruno Silva was going to lose again. Because I'm like, he just came off an L like weeks ago. Why are the UFC making him fight again? Is this like the end of his contract? What is it? It ended up being a different Bruno Silva. There's multiple. Who knew? So there's that. Shout out to the Brunos. And he fought. You know what's funny about it? I looked back at the card, and Bruno Silva fought this guy. His name's like Cody Durden. But it's funny because, Durden is like Tyler Durden, if you ever watched Fight Club, Tyler Durden. He has 2 different personalities. He's 2 different people. I don't know. Maybe I'm digging too deep into this and I think it's funny. But, yeah, so Durden fought the other version of Bruno Silva, his alter ego, the Bruno Silva that wins fights, not loses fights. And then last, Lemos took a L, man. I can't believe it. I really can't. What's her name? Handiroba handed her the loss. Yeah, Fight Club. And, I can't believe it. I know Lemos is older. I know she's like 36. She's older. But, she throws hands. But the problem is she couldn't defend the takedown. The takedowns were effective. And she just, like I said, she couldn't stop them. And whatever Verna was doing was just impossible to stop. So she got the win over. I thought Lemos, for me, I thought the matchup was in favor of her. She just couldn't stop that damn takedown. So it is what it is. Verna gets the dub. Shout out to her. She moves on. And I wonder who she fights next. That was a contender match to me. There's no way it isn't. Those are 2 top fighters in the women's division. And you beat Lemos. Lemos is a dog. Like, who wants to square? What champion? Honestly, who wants to square off against Lemos? That's not an easy night. By any means, that is not an easy night. So, shout out to her for getting the dub. We're just gonna breeze over that. We're ramping up for the next UFCs. The real pay-per-views, not the fight nights. Those are always the best and most competitive. But yesterday had a lot of finishes, so that's always fun. Ton of finishes, not many decisions, but there were a few. Now moving on to Jake Paul's boxing event versus Mike Perry. Jake Paul whooped his ass. He knocked him down in the first. He knocked him down in the second. And then I believe it was the fifth or the sixth where he got the finish. Knocks him down the third time. You know, the ref, it looked like he gave him a late count. Like when the camera went to him, and Mike Perry just as soon as the ref runs over to him, it sounded like he started the count at 4. I don't know if he was already counting in his head, and by the time he got to Mike Perry's face, like up front, it sounded like he was like 4, 5, and Perry popped up by 7 or 8, and the ref was like, "All right, you're up, but take a few steps that way. I just want to see your balance. Take a few steps." Mike Perry takes a step. He looked fine, and then that third step, he was like. And then he catches himself, and he knew right there as soon as he stumbled, the ref was going to call it. You could see the body language. He tensed up a little, and the ref immediately waved it off. As soon as that stumble came, Perry knew it. Everybody that was watching, I would suspect, knew it. And yeah, that was it. Mike Perry got his ass whooped. He looked like his cardio wasn't there. I understand he's in these bare knuckle fights and all this, but I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the glove being just a bigger object to hit somebody with. You have to be more precise in bare knuckles because obviously you don't have all this extra padding and everything that you could kind of connect with. Gives you a bigger target to slap your opponent with. But yeah, he really got his ass whooped. He might just not be a boxer, like boxing is a lot different. Even bare knuckle boxing is different than boxing because when you put your gloves up, it's different when you got bare hands versus gloves. What else? We got the TKO, 3 knockdowns. The size was definitely a big advantage. Obviously, Jake Paul weighs a lot more than that dude, and that's why in real boxing and in real fights, not saying it wasn't real, but in competitive boxing and UFC, that's why there's weight classes. And Jake Paul is clearly above that weight class. There's no doubt about it in my mind. He's too damn big for that. At the same time, I mean, he didn't do that to Diaz, right? So Diaz, I don't know, there's something about him. Diaz, he doesn't hit too hard, but the dude's a zombie. You keep hitting him. Can't finish him, though. His record, I think he's 8-1 right now against pros. The only person he's lost to was Will Fleury, as Chael Sonnen calls him. What's his real name? What's Fury's last name? The brother. Chael Sonnen has called him a fake name for so long. I forgot his real name. Tom? Is that his name? Tommy Fury? I think so. Tommy Fury beat him. But if you actually watch that fight, Jake Paul whooped his ass in the 8th round. The last round, you got Fury who got dropped, and Paul looked like a beast. I'm like, if this went 12 rounds, Fury doesn't win that. Let's be real. If it goes 10 rounds, 9 rounds even, if there's one more round, I don't think he wins that. I think he might get finished. He looked gassed. He looked like he wanted out of that fight. That's just the way I seen it. So, Tommy Fury, or in Chael's words, Will Fleury, because he didn't. That's what he said. Before the fight, he kept calling him Will Fleury because he didn't deserve for him to remember his name. He was saying he's not that good of a boxer for me to remember this guy. He's not a real boxer. He's kind of fighting cans. He's getting carried under the Fury name, but he's being brought up like a traditional boxer. You fight cans until you're 20-0, and then they sell you on a card. Probably Mike Perry was dipping way too much into the queso. He was eating way too much. King Brett, I know you're in here. You love the queso. he was dipping way too much into the queso, wasn't it? He wasn't ready for this fight. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have an off season from the queso. The queso is heavy stuff. So if you want to prepare for a championship bout, I don't know, lay off the queso for a little bit, and then you'll be ready. And then you celebrate your victory with none other than queso. That's how you do it. You treat yourself to queso. Moving on to Summer League, we segued from the W to the UFC to boxing. We're just going to breeze over those for now. Summer League, though, we got some serious standouts. Khalil Ware, PER monster, absolute monster. I think he's second in all of Summer League in PER rating. Also a plus 15 overall. As I've said, the Heat are lights out. There's not a better Summer League team than the Heat. I think they're going to win the championship. Gun to my head, had to put all my money on it. No other options in the world. I'm putting it on the Heat. Jaquez is nothing to play with. Josh Christopher looks like a complete guard now. He's not just this little microwave scorer. Maybe in the league he might be a microwave scorer, but against this level of competition, he's a complete guard. He looks incredible. Put $1 on him. It's the Heat. I'm telling you, Heat for the championship. They look great. And Khalil Ware, he actually gets to the line. So my biggest issue right now, if we're going to do the whole Summer League standouts and everything else, I'm also going to talk about the failures. And I could just look to Alex Sarr. Second pick. A lot of people had him number 1 on all their draft boards. This whole 8 month period, Alexander Sarr has been number 1 on everyone's board. He was in Australia. He was averaging like 10 points a game, but he was also getting minute restrictions, and he was holding back because he didn't want to get hurt for the league. I mean, is he still playing like that at Summer League? He's averaging 5 points. 5. You could look at Alexander Sarr, second pick. The second overall pick of the NBA draft is averaging 5 points, shooting 19% from the field. He's averaging 12 attempts a game. 12 attempts a game, and he's making like 1.9 field goals. So he's 2 for 12 every game. He's averaging 2 for 12. That is worse than Angel Reese. So all the shit people are giving Angel Reese for all her stats, and she's shooting 35% from the field, and yada, yada, yada. This dude, number 2 overall pick, a 7-foot grown-ass man, is shooting 18, 19% from the field. You could average that. I could average that in Summer League. I put that on my life. I could average 20% from the field. I know that for a fact. 20%, 1 in 5 shots? That's ridiculous. You're 7 feet tall. 7'1", and an athlete. But this is what I said, and I said it in my pre-draft analysis. And it's actually coming out, on the court, and the basketball skill is there. I said it. Khalil Ware is highly underrated. He has better measurements than Alex Sarr in every way. His arms are longer. He's about the same height, but he's got bigger hands, longer wingspan, a taller standing reach, and his statistical, the way he moves his feet, everything, the shuttle drills. Look at the timing from the shuttle drills, the cone drills, the 3-quarter sprint drills, everything. Alexander Sarr is not a better athlete than Khalil Ware. And Khalil Ware was averaging a double-double, fam, in the Big Ten. Name me people who are averaging a double-double in the Big Ten and then get labeled motor issues. That's what they said about Khalil Ware. That was the one reason why he fell in the draft. They said motor issues and his love of the game is questioned. They're saying he's kind of lazy, yada, yada, yada. 16-10 for Indiana? Are you kidding me? Look what Trace Jackson Davis was doing. A senior for Indiana last year comes into the league ready to play and everything else. He was a second-round pick last year. You got Khalil Ware transferring from, I believe, Michigan. I believe he came from Michigan his freshman year, unless I'm misremembering the player. But I believe he came from Michigan and transferred into Indiana since Trace Jackson Davis is gone, fills his spot, and does better. Tell me that guy's not going to do good in the league. And who else came out of Indiana? Indiana last year had a lottery pick, if you don't remember, Jalen Hood-Schifino. was the lottery pick, and Trace Jackson Davis was the second-round pick, picked way later. And I said it. You can look back at my tweets. I said, if you know who Jalen Hood-Schifino is and you don't know who Trace Jackson Davis is, that means you weren't actually watching college basketball. You feel me? Because Jalen Hood-Schifino was made better by Trace Jackson Davis, and all of his lobs and his playmaking was to Trace Jackson Davis, who finished the play and just was the better overall player. I love what's his name? They call him TJD. He's Dale Davis's son, but I guess they don't have like a great relationship. And he was actually his mom, after being with Dale Davis, left, divorced. I don't know what happened there. I'm not bothering about that. She married a former NFL player, and he actually considers the former NFL player as his father, and he like leaves the Dale Davis thing out of it. But if you know anything about Dale Davis, like, was an incredible big. So this guy's got some great genes, was raised around pros, and I talked about it last week, and I'll repeat it. People think there's a little bit of a nepotism problem in the NBA, but it seems to be that there's a higher percent success rate from the nepotism. So like former NBA players that have kids that go to the league actually have a higher success rate. Whether they get a longer leash, that's something to be debated. You know, like you would come in, they might believe in you an extra year just because your dad played in the league. So maybe you just get the longer leash and in turn develop, have less pressure, and it's easier to just get into the league and stay in the league with less pressure. But if you're somebody who's unproven with no background, people will bail on you earlier, you know? So it could be a little bit of that, but at the same time, Trace Jackson Davis, he's got a really big track record of having an ex-pro dad and an ex-pro stepdad. So I don't know. I think he's a great player, was brought up the right way, has a great head on his shoulders. But then you have Khalil Ware, who has none of that and steps in and actually produces at a higher clip. And then people are calling him lazy and uncommitted because they don't know him. They don't know him from a hole in the wall. So they think 1 year they see a couple plays where maybe he slacked off, didn't go 100%. Now they label him lazy and you can't invest in this guy. He's blah, 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 blah. But 16-10 is fucking big time. In the Big Ten. If you know anything about college basketball, there's a few conferences that are top tier. Big Ten, SEC, and I love the Big East. The Big East is my favorite because you got all my great teams over there. But for the most part, I think those are the three best conferences. I mean, you always got like Pac-12, whatever. But for the Power Five, I would say the top three are those three, in my humble opinion. So you got that guy, Khalil Ware, doing all that. He's also plus 15 in 4 games. So he's a positive net player no matter what. Love what he could do. Let's jump to my number 1 overall pick, even though he's picked 11th. It doesn't matter where you're picked in the draft because you got to go play. And Alexander Sarr, like I said, he's playing like crap. He's averaging 19% from the field. Also, he's only averaging 1 free throw a game. That's a huge issue. That means you have a lack of aggression. If you're not willing to go to the rim and get fouled, get hit, you're playing soft. And that's what his field goal percentage shows. 19% from the field, 1 free throw attempt per game. Juxtapose that to Khalil Ware, playing all the games, still averaging damn near a double-double, and at the same time, he's getting to the line at 5.5 free throws per game. Almost 6 free throws a game. And this is the 15th pick in the draft, I believe, by Miami, versus the 2nd pick in the draft, who claims he was just trying to stay healthy and all the other stuff. My number 1 pick, Brett, you should know my number 1 pick, Matas Buzelis, the 11th pick of the draft, but also who was number 1 on my mock draft. And I looked crazy. I was on Boards to Buckets' stream. Shout out the Dream, Renato. He brought me on for the draft analysis, and there's not many people who really lock in, pay attention to G League, have an international scope of things, and also pay attention to college basketball. Admittedly, I'm not as locked in as I used to be. 2 years ago, I was absolutely grinding during the college season. I was watching Big Sky games just to stay involved, just to know about the Big Sky, see if there's any sleepers. But Matas Buzelis was my number one on my big board, my number one player. And I just can't pronounce it. I know. You could call him Taz. I think that's his actual nickname, what his friends call him. Taz. It'd be Taz Buzelis. Buzelis. Matas Buzelis. I can do the pronunciations for plenty of guys. Just let me know. But yeah, I had him number one. I think the kid's incredible. I seen him play in high school. I thought he was fucking incredible. Like, if you didn't see him play in high school, go back and look at the tape because it's ridiculous. He played at Brewster, where a plethora of former NBA current NBA players and former NBA players went. They're a breeding powerhouse right now for NBA players. It used to be Oak Hill. Oak Hill still produces talent. Obviously, Cole Anthony, Sonago, who was in Summer League killing it, top 5 block getter, who was from UConn. Also, Cam Thomas from UConn and was his teammate, Sonago. And Cam Thomas was going to commit to UConn, but Kevin Ollie left to go to the NBA. And then he decommits there, or he didn't verbally commit or anything, but he was about to, and ended up changing it to go to LSU. But Brewster pumping out talent. I'm telling you, maybe 30 picks, I want to say, in the past few years. That's huge. For a high school to have 30 NBA draft picks come from there, you just know you're breeding talent. You're fostering success in some way. And Buzelis won New Hampshire Gatorade Player of the Year. I know people, New Hampshire, but this is what I'm saying. They actually have an incredible, a basketball factory. You know, they used to call that about Oak Hill and a few other high schools, DeMatha, IMG Academy. I can name a few and just kind of go on. Chaminade was, I think it's how you say it, is where Jason Tatum went, and they have a lot of players come out of there. There's a bunch of those prep schools that really are notable. But yeah, absolutely incredible. He bounced around, from high school to high school. Buzelis did. A lot of the best players in the country do that. But if you see the lineage he comes from, he's also, so his dad is Arvydas Sabonis, one of his bros, like this. So when Arvydas Sabonis was killing it overseas, it was Buzelis' dad who was his teammate. And so when Arvydas Sabonis comes to America, and, his wife and everything else, they conceive their child, and it's Domantas Sabonis. Well, Sabonis' buddy, he invites him, says, yo, come to America. Come move to America, start your family, and, raise your kid here for basketball because they're going to be better at basketball if they're raised here versus Lithuania. So what happens? Matas Buzelis, who's Domantas Sabonis' cousin, they're family friends. I guess he considers Arvydas as an uncle, so that means Sabonis is his cousin. And I just think that's also what we're talking about, is these players who were raised in these professional settings, and he knows what it is. He knows what level he has to take it to be the best of the best. He's not around anything else and doesn't have bad influences in the periphery. He's got great influences, and he's going to stay on the right track. Also, little sidebar, I talked to Matas Buzelis face-to-face for about 15 minutes at the Top Shot event. Our conversation kind of just flew. Honestly, I went up to take a picture with him, and then my buddy Lewis, who was taking the picture, he said something to Matas. We kind of got a conversation going from there, and then just kept chopping it up. And I was talking to him because I hosted a podcast with Rick Barry for about 3 years. I know Rick on a personal level, and I also know he's Lithuanian. Rick Barry doesn't have a Lithuanian traditional last name, but he's Lithuanian, and I know that for a fact. And so I mentioned it. I said, hey, you should link up, talk to Rick Barry. He's a great wing. He averaged 35 in a season. He's the only player to ever lead college basketball, the ABA, and the NBA in points per game in a season. Though that'll never be done again because there is no such thing as an ABA, that's a record he'll hold on to forever. NCAA points leader, ABA points leader, NBA points leader. That's pretty fucking special. He led the league in free throw percentage. He led the league in steals. He's led the league in points. You can't tell me Rick Barry wasn't a fucking stud and not a top 50 player ever, because that's a proven fact. When they voted for NBA top 50, this was the 50th anniversary team, not the top 75, because he is on the top 75 roster, but he'll remind you every time. He was on the top 50, the original top 50 list, and if anything, he's in the top 25 of that list. He's a finals MVP, took his team to the championship. He was killing it over there in the ABA. He was the number 2 overall pick in the NBA. Didn't like what he was getting paid, left. Like, there's so much things that Rick Barry pioneered, and in a sense, Matas Buzelis, he pioneered something in his own way, you know? He went to the G League, and that's something that's pretty unique. There's only about 5 players who really have come from the G League and gotten picked in the first round. So I think that's huge. I'm rooting for him. I think it's a cool way to enter the league. He wanted to be a professional immediately, which is more in line with his European raising, right? Arvydas Sabonis and his pops. What do they do in Lithuania? You become a pro at a younger age. It's club teams. It's sort of like soccer. Same thing with Luka. Luka was a professional basketball player at 13. You know what I'm saying? So, like, he was raised and has a different mentality. He has the European mentality, raised in America, has American game with the European work ethic. And it's just a whole nother level. I really believe in this kid. So good luck to him. I connected him and his agent with Rick. We'll see where it goes. Also, I talked to him about his court swag. No funny shit. I mentioned this. I don't know why I did. But if you Google Matas Buzelis, right? Google all his images. Every high school team he's ever played on, the G League team, the Rising Stars game, and even the first 2 games of Summer League. So I talked to him. I said, bro, you need to get some court swag, some gear, something. You got to have something. You got to have a wristband, a sleeve, a headband, a leg sleeve, leggings, a knee pad, elbow pad. I said, Rick Barry had wristbands. But listen to what I'm talking about, because Rick Barry gave this knowledge to me, and I'll just convey it to y'all. It's about marketing. Rick Barry's whole career wore 2 wristbands like a tennis player, because when he grew up and he liked to stay in shape, he liked to play tennis. And what they do in tennis is they wear wristbands so your hands, you don't have too much sweat coming down on your racket, so you can hold it so your racket doesn't slip out of your hand. So Rick believes that if he was in this era, the today of NIL and all these marketing deals and endorsements and stuff, back in the day, he wore 2 wristbands. No one gave a shit. Today, you wear 2 wristbands, that's your image. He's the wristband guy. So now, like, Rick Barry would have a wristband brand, and he would have Nike endorsements, doing commercials, showing this. And I'm trying to pass on game that Rick taught to me, and I'm like, bro, talk to him, because he gives me a couple pointers, and it blows my mind. But the way he talks about NIL and everything else, and he's like, bro, I missed out on hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, in today's world, Rick Barry would figure out how to be a billionaire. This is a guy, like I said, was advocating for player movement back in the day. People give LeBron the biggest credit in the world. Oh, he chose to go unrestricted free agent to the Cavs, to the Heat, build a super team, yada, yada, yada. This dude, after 2 seasons, said, I'm done with the NBA. I'm going to the ABA. They're paying me more. I don't care if it's less of a platform or yada, yada, yada. Like, it's about him playing and him providing for his family, because money wasn't like that back in the day for these players, you know? And that's my biggest gripe with J.J. Redick and calling these guys plumbers, because he has no respect for what they actually did back in the day for an unpaved, space. They made it so J.J. Redick can get $20 million a year sitting in a corner. You know what I'm saying? Like, show some fucking respect, J.J. Redick. I'm still pissed about that. And he got hired a week after Jerry West dies, and he shit on Jerry West. At least Jerry West got the clap back and said what I just said. I listen to the OGs. What they say, I think, really stands. And he said it. He said, I did all this. I was a complete player. I had to work a side job. You got all the time in the world, get paid $20 million, and all you could figure out how to do is hit a free throw and hit a three-pointer. You got no other game. You can't even guard the other team's best player. You're not a defender. You're not a playmaker. You're not a dribbler. You're not nothing. You're a set shooter. So don't speak. Don't speak on Jerry West being a bum when you're a set shooter. So, and I'm glad he got that clap back on the radio. And I'm going to remind JJ every time. I remind y'all every time, because I don't know. I just thought he was dead wrong for that shit. And same with Rick Barry. You don't know what this dude had to put in. There was no YouTube videos, tutorials. There was no Drew Hanlon step back threes and all this type of shit. They were figuring stuff out on the fly. No analytics. They had to figure it out. They had to put in the work to figure out what works, what doesn't. Trial and error. I will never shit on an era that is just going off of trial and error and figuring it out. So shout out to Rick. And he's going to be connected with Buzelis. I already texted the agent and everything. And I hope he gets connected. He's a really good dude. And he's pitched a few other things. Let me blow your mind here. Blew my mind. No such thing as a good screener. That's what Rick Barry said. Because it all depends on the ball handler. Did the ball handler manipulate the defender, his defender, into the screen before it was set? If so, it's the ball handler's fault. Rick rubs a lot of people the wrong way. He's all about accountability, and he butted heads with a lot of players back in the day too. But he takes this shit serious, and he had that. I think he had the Mamba mentality before anybody. Truly, that's why people don't fuck with him, because he would call players out and say, "You're not putting in work. You're lazy," and that was the whole Kobe and Shaq dilemma. He would call Shaq lazy, and that was a beef. But now Shaq, in hindsight, looks back and says, "Yeah, he was right. The regular season was his practice to get in shape for the playoffs. And that's not how you should ever approach being a professional athlete. And that's how Kobe felt. That's how Rick Barry felt. He was all about accountability and being the best you could be and putting in the most work possible. And that's what Rick says. It's accountability. So it's the ball handler's fault when it's an offensive foul on a screen, because he manipulated his defender into the ball screen before it was set. It's the ball handler's fault. There's no such thing as a good screen. A good screen is determined by the ball handler, who makes his defender hit the screen, and you have to come tight off that screen. You make the screen good, not the screener making the screen good. And he really got into depth about it. He talked about examples and everything else. And the more he broke it down to me, I truly believe this is a summary. I can't say it as good as Rick. That's just what it is. He lived it. You know what I'm saying? He lived 20 years of professional basketball. I lived about 20 years of, rec league, mom and pop, CYO, church league basketball. Not as great as him. So I always trust his judgment on that. And also, he talked about being a 20-point scorer in the league. He said it's very easy to score 20 points in the NBA. All you have to do is try. You should be able to get 2 baskets on the fast break. If you hustle, you should always come up with at least 2 transition buckets. That's 4 points. You got an offensive rebound. You should always be crashing the glass, especially coming from him. He's a small forward, crashing the glass, hustling. Offensive rebound, 1 or 2 a game, putbacks, 4 points. That's 8 points right there. You should be attacking. You should get at least fouled 1 time. Shooting the way Rick shoots 90-something% from the free throw line. That's 10 points for free. 10 points just for working hard. Just for being out there and running, you will get 10 points for free. You get what I'm saying? And from there, you get a backdoor cut. You catch the defense sleeping. You could get 2 backdoor cuts a game. That's 14 points. You get what I'm saying? Your teammates, you setting up and playing off your teammates, giving them the proper space. You should get 2 open shots a game. At least 2 open shots a game. Like, the game just naturally will feed you 20 points if you play properly and you work hard. And that's what he says. You crash the glass. You see your teammate playing some hard defense. You anticipate a steal. Get out and run. Don't walk. Get out and run. Beat your player or the big down the court. Get open. Fill the lane. Run in transition. You ever do a 3-man weave in practice? You know what that is? Like, it's all about running, moving the ball, and staying active and staying ready. So he's saying, like, all you have to do is really just lock in and play hard. And these points will fall in your lap. 15 points will fall in your lap. That easy. And the more and more he breaks it down, talks about you just have to focus on 5 points a quarter. 20 points, 4 quarters. 5 points a quarter. Can you get a transition bucket? Can you run hard every quarter? Yeah, then you could get 10 points easily. Just off of that. Just off of running hard. And in transition. So he puts me onto these little things that obviously I can't do anything about as an older person, 20, 25 or older. What is this information going to do with you? But as a younger kid, you could develop and understand it. And especially with Matas Buzelis in the position he's in, he could use some of this advice coming from Rick, not coming from me, coming from Rick. And Rick has a bunch of other things, but just those 3 examples alone, I think you should understand, like the good screener, the philosophy on that, the philosophy on 20 points a game, the NIL stuff. I can get into it all. Even free throws. Comes down to free throws. Buzelis is about a 65% free throw shooter. And I think coming from Rick, the career leader in free throw percentage, I talked to his agent, Nick. I talked to the Matas Buzelis' agent. I mean, this is all public info. You can look into the agencies and everything else. I'm not going to give you his personal info, but his agent laughed when I said that. We were just talking, chopping up. I said, Rick. And then he said, oh, it's the guy with the granny shot. I said, yeah. But I said, bro, he shot over 90%. I said, it's a guaranteed make, really. Like, if you actually learn the formula and understand everything about the free throw and the technique, you could shoot 90%. I said he got Shaq to about 90% when they practiced, and Shaq said, I'm a grown-ass man, which is a real quote. I have it on video. If you go to my Twitter, go to my pinned tweet, and I have the video of me and Rick ripping some packs. He's my buddy. So I was like, hey, I'm into this ripping packs. You want to rip a pack with me? We were at the game. At the game he GMs for, and I worked for Rick's team. I was the play-by-play call guy. And after the game, we were just chopping it up, and I'm like, yo, want to rip a pack? He's like, bet. So we rip a pack. We open the Stephon Marbury moment. He talks about Georgia Tech, and how his son played at Georgia Tech, and he wore a big chain coming in. And Rick Barry said Stephon Marbury made more on that chain alone than his entire NBA career, he said about him. So then he rips the pack and then he gets the moment with Shaq, and he says he trained Shaq and to do the granny shot, but Shaq said he's a grown-ass man. He looks like he looks soft doing it, and he doesn't want to do it. And then Nick, the agent, asks me, Buzelis' agent, says, would you do it? And I said, no, I never shot like that. I wouldn't think to shoot like that. But if I had the tutelage of the best free throw shooter of all time, and that's his form, and he was going to give that to me and pass that down, I said I would take his tutelage. I would let him teach me, and I would trust it. It's effective. It has worked. It has been proven to work. So I don't know. He kind of laughed at it after, and I said, like, I wouldn't do it. But if I did from a young age, if I was 8 years old and Rick Barry hit me up and said, I'll teach you how to shoot like me, and you'll shoot 90% for the rest of your life, you think I would have said, no, I don't want to shoot like a granny. I don't want to shoot like I'm soft or whatever. I would take that 110%. So they laughed at it a little bit. He did kind of say, like, that's true. Like, it is Rick Barry. It's not like he's just going to go out there and start doing it on his own or trying to hear advice from other people. I'm connecting you with the GOAT of this. He could teach you the right way to do it. So the connection's made. We'll see what comes from that. But I really love Buzelis. He just blocks shots. G League, he averaged 2 blocks a game. Summer League, he's averaging 2 blocks a game. He's consistent. He's a great defender, and he plays hard. That's one thing that everyone's noticing from Buzelis. Excuse me. He plays hard. And he's got a little handle. He did some little behind-the-back crossover, double behind-the-back move. It froze the defender. He was like, oh, I'm dealing with something else. Buzelis got some sauce in his game. He talked some shit. He dunked on dude, kept eye contact the whole time, he was flexing on him from the ground, got picked up, still eyeing him down. He's got dog in him, bro. He really does. He's got chops. Tyler Kolek, leading Summer League. We'll move on to some other players. Tyler Kolek of the Knicks. I believe he has the best assist-to-turnover ratio in Summer League history. Over 40 assists, less than 8 turnovers, something like that. Broke some record. Best assist-to-turnover ratio, Summer League history. Records were broken this year, and Tyler Kolek broke it. So shout out to Tyler Kolek. Great guard coming out of Marquette. Small guy. They compared him to TJ McConnell, and he said, that's lazy. And that's true, because Tyler Kolek does not play like TJ McConnell. He's a three-point shooter. TJ McConnell does not shoot threes. You just called him that because he's 6 feet and white. Let's be real. You don't know ball. You don't know ball because that comparison is dog shit. It has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that he's 6 feet tall and white. Be real. So a lot of people, they have these dog shit comparisons. You go through mine, and it's actually a joke on group chat. they make a joke about cross-racial comparisons, and they're always afraid to do it, and yada yada yada. But you just got to see for what it really is. I don't know. People just got to know ball, and just because dude's white, black, Brazilian, don't really matter. Don't determine how you're gonna play necessarily. So don't always just copy and paste play types, calling T.J. McConnell the next Kolek. Like I said, they play nothing alike. T.J. McConnell can't shoot. He can't shoot from three. He's an efficient player, but that dude is not a shooter. He's actually a detriment to spacing when he's out there because he's so hesitant to shoot the three because he knows he's not that good. He'll shoot the open one here and there, but he's not a volume three-point shooter. Kolek is going to put them shots up. He's fearless. So dead that shit, and I'm glad Kolek even came out and called some scouts out, some scouts. I'll put it in quotes, scouts, calling people saying they know what they're talking about. T.J. McConnell doesn't shoot threes, fam, and that's Kolek's number one calling card is threes. Anyway, moving on, Tristan da Silva, the Silva Surfer. That's what we're calling him, the Silva Surfer, Tristan da Silva. He's playing great over there for the Magic. I like what he's doing. I do question his fit long term. You know, you got Franz Wagner, who's more of a small forward. You got Paulo Banchero, who's a power forward. And then you got Da Silva, who is a small forward, maybe a stretch four. I think he's way too skinny to be that. Can Franz go to the two, Silva to the three, Silva to the two, Franz to the three? You know what I'm saying. Can they be, you know, all played together, all those three wings? I don't know. That's something that we'll have to see because it all depends on what type of leap Da Silva really makes when it comes to the league. Guys are a lot bigger. He's very skinny. He has rebounding problems, so I do doubt that he could ever be a four or, like, you know, even a backup four. He just doesn't bring that type of thing to the game. But maybe at the three he could have some success. But like I said, that conflicts with Franz Wagner. So if Franz Wagner is going to be a three for the rest of his career, then that means Tristan da Silva is a backup for the remainder of his career if he stays on the Magic. We'll see how that develops. I do like him. He's a very fun player. On to my next lock of the draft. My two locks of the draft, Khalil Ware and Ron Holland. I absolutely love Ron Holland. I think the dude just, you can't stop him. If he wants to go to the rack, you cannot stop Ron Holland. I've compared him to Jamal Mashburn and Rudy Gay. Actually, Buzelis took my mock draft, grabbed my phone. We'll touch on this real quick, and then we'll finish with the Ron point because it comes to a Ron point, and that's where I'm getting at. So I had Buzelis 1. He thought it was crazy. I had the comparisons, Franz Wagner, Antoine Walker, and Andre Karolinko. He liked Franz. He liked AK-47. He didn't know who Antoine Walker was, and I said he was the running mate with Paul Pierce. He played the 3 and the 4. He was a solid offense, like really solid offensive player. Mainly that's what he focused on, and a great shooter for the time. People actually thought he shot too much. In today's league, he'd be the perfect fit. But the green, like the great spots that you see when Buzelis is really like going good and he's in a rhythm, you can see some Antoine Walker in his game. When he starts putting up some shots, he starts pump faking, driving to the rack, yamming on people. He's got some Walker in his game. So I told him to watch some Walker highlights, and I said, bro, you got this in your bag. Like, I've seen it, and this is why I feel. Like, you definitely got some Franz. You're a connector. You're really long. You know, you go to the rim hard. But Walker also has some things to Buzelis because Buzelis will pull up on you. Franz isn't necessarily that dribble pull-up guy, and Walker will. Like, Walker's just that type of player, like I said. And so I told him, I said, check out some Antoine Walker. Bro, watch some of his clips. You got the defense on lock. You get 3 stocks a game. This is me talking to him. G League, he averages steal and 2 blocks. 3 stocks. That's huge. Big-time production. So I'm like, bro, you got the defense side. You know what you're doing there. Watch some Antoine Walker. You got some of that stuff in his bag. He was fearless, all offense. What has he done in the G League so far? 28 points a game. He's out there doing the work. Buzelis is killing it. 28 points a game. Then I think he followed it up with an 18-point game. And shit, the 18-point game was just as good as the 30-point, the 28 points game. You know, he had 4 blocks one night, 2 steals, just filling up the stat sheet. He's always getting blocks. But I hand it to him. He looks at the player comparison. He sees Sarr at 2, and I'm like, bro, even he said it. The player comparisons were not that good for Alexander Sarr, and I'm correct. I just don't see it with him. I really don't. I don't see it with Alexander Sarr. And then at 4, I had Ron, and he was drafted 5th. So I had his teammate, and also like what he considers to be like his best friend right now professionally is Ron Holland. Him and Ron are tight. So I put Buzelis at 1 and Ron at 4. He was drafted at 5th. So I technically overrated 2 players, him and his best buddy. And I really like what they did at the G League. 18 years old, going from a high school three-point line to an NBA three-point line. Granted, they shot about 30% from 3 or slightly below that, and that's not good on NBA standards. But going from the high school line to the NBA is a totally different line. Most of these people are going from high school to college to NBA. The jump from high school to NBA is huge. So I just give them the credit. I give them the benefit of the doubt. Their form isn't that bad. If anything, I think Buzelis' form has gotten a tad slow, a frame slow, and I don't really like it in the G League, but I think it's because he has to generate more leg power to generate that NBA three-pointer compared to his high school range. So I think that'll get worked through naturally, and Ron put up some really nice threes in the G League. But I compared him to, as I said, Jamal Mashburn and Rudy Gay. And Rudy Gay was called Truck. That's his nickname. They call him Truck. And then with Mashburn, I mean, that dude was a 22-point game scorer, maybe 24 one season, but averaged about 20 to 19 his career. And Holland averaging about 20 points a game at 18 years old in the G League against grown-ass men on an NBA three-point line with a bad team, bad defense, bad spacing, and he still did what he did. So I just don't want to take that away from him. I really think Ron's going to be incredible, and if anybody in this chat has ever seen Jamal Mashburn play, he looked at me as Jamal Mashburn. I don't like some of the stuff. Buzelis just doesn't know that era because he's younger. But my God, Mashburn used to take it to the hole. He was unstoppable. And then at the same time, Rudy Gay, very slept on, but everybody said it. In all of the workouts, behind the scenes, when the NBA is not on summer pickup and all the NBA players meet up at like some random rec gym, they'll meet up at UCLA, and 20 NBA players are just running full. They keep, swapping teams, yada, yada, yada. They would always say, Rudy Gay might have been the best player at every pickup. Even that LeBron was at. Rudy Gay was the best player there. And it just is what it is. When it's this free-flow offensive style, you see it. He attacks in transition. He attacks non-set defenses. And he kind of thrives in that chaos, And if he could harness that and be even better in a set system in a very organized league like the NBA, I think he could be a very special talent. So let's see if he harnesses it and everything else. But he was pretty happy that I had him, one ranking above what he got picked, 5th to the Pistons. I had him 4th to the Spurs. And I think, what? You put Ron Holland on the Spurs next to Wemby, that'd be great. But I also like Castle there because Castle's a great creator and offers something different that Ron Holland doesn't. Ron Holland is a north to south type player. Castle operates in the east to west. And I think that'll also be good for cutting up the defenses, manipulating them, shifting them one way, where then Wembanyama just has the ultimate advantage. Shout out to Ron Holland. I think he's going to do some great things. And you need some guys, even if they can't shoot, they just go straight to the hole. The Pistons, they got guys that, can't shoot, but they don't go straight to the hole. They don't attack like this. They just kind of have a whatever game. Like Amen Thompson, he'll drive to the hole, but he's not really taking nobody ISO. He's more catching it off of a shifting defense and kind of just driving in an open lane, catching a lob, maybe shooting a corner 3 when they make it a small ball 5 situation, kind of like they did with Amen Thompson and Usar. They're about the same player. But I think with Ron, it brings a different element. He's a slasher. It's not like this like role player glue guy slashing. It's a legit slasher to score. So that helps coming. No matter what, that helps coming. They're not scared of, Usar Thompson driving to the rack. They're not going to send a double to a triple to help that. They will with Ron. So I think you get some more off-ball creation just for the other guys and potential open shots. Klingon, an absolute beast. He's averaging like 4 blocks a game for the Blazers. like a double-double. He's awesome. I really like what he does. Shout out to Klingon. I think he's going to be a real big. DeAndre Ayton might have to slide to the power forward if they trade Grant or see something like that. He might lose his spot. He might get traded. Who the hell knows what's going to happen with Ayton? But all I know is Klingon deserves minutes. That guy is legit. He's working hard. He's even showing some touch, some shots. I like it. He's not afraid. Some of these big guys get to the league and don't want to shoot a three ever again. Claxton was shooting threes in Auburn, I believe. Yeah, Auburn. And now in the league, he won't even take a three. You got guys like Luke Cornett came into the league, a spacer, a stretch five. That guy won't take a three anymore. Some guys kind of lose it. And I just hope that, guys like Khalil Ware and Klingon are fearless and want to add a three-pointer to their repertoire. Sort of like what Serge Ibaka did. Ibaka wasn't a shooter, but he developed that. And he actually started leaning on it. Maybe got a little too heavy on the three at certain parts of his career where he should have stayed more in what he was great at, because that's what was making him great and was determining wins over losses. But yeah, really like Klingon, another UConn guy. Jalen Wilson for the Nets, playing great. I think he had 31 points the other night, 33 points, maybe something like that, and an overtime victory. Really played hard. And I think he's going to get a lot of minutes this year coming up for the Nets. The Nets don't have too many wings, and Jalen Wilson is just going to slide in there and do his thing. I'm rooting for him. Shout out to Jalen Wilson. Moving on to Jet Howard. Oh, my God, Jet Howard. Bro, on like 60% from the three on 6 attempts. That's as legit as it could get. 6 attempts, damn near like 60% from three. You kidding me? From three? And Alexander Sarr shooting 19% from 5 feet away, and he's 7 feet tall. He can't even shoot on a 10-foot rim. He could reach the rim standing up, barely jumping on his tippy toes, and he can't even make 20%, 1 in 5 shots, and he's tippy toes at the rim. And you got Jet Howard shooting from 30 feet away, making 60%, 3 out of 5 shots. Jet Howard's a sniper. It's official. He's a sniper. Will he break into the lineup for the Magic? That's a question. Same with Anthony Black. Anthony Black looked great. Creating, having fun, being a 6'7" point guard. He can't really shoot yet. We'll see where he goes. I think he would be a guy that would maybe thrive on a different team, maybe even thrive on the Nets, because he's just not a shooter, but he's a shot creator. He reminds me a little bit of Lonzo with less of a three-point shot, because Lonzo always had the three, whether it was funky or not. I always liked Lonzo's three-pointers. But Black, on the other hand, he's a little bit better at taking it to the rim than Lonzo. Lonzo's finishing rate was never too high. Obviously, he could catch lobs and dunk and do all those things, but his finishing rate wasn't the best. I like Black going to the cup. And, yeah, shout out to those two guys. Who else? We got Reed Shepherd playing incredible. He got dropped in the first game, like to start it really early in the game, but he made up for it. And, he crossed over Dalton Connect on a double dribble, what you want to call that. It is what it is. He double dribbled. He crossed him and beat him by a half a step because of it, or maybe a full step, but either way, he double dribbled. So I can't give him the full crossover, but he did get dropped earlier in the game. So we want to go back. Reed Shepherd got dropped, but he's been playing great, very efficient. Let's talk about Pods. Pods averaging a double-double, 10 rebounds, 9.5 rebounds, almost a double-double. The dude's awesome. He's a great player. I think the Warriors are going to be an awesome team next year. They cut some dead weight with Clay. Granted, he still shot pretty well last year on the attempts and everything else, even on makes and percentage, but I think they're in a better position this year. I think the Warriors make the playoffs. Lakers don't. Where else? A.J. Johnson looked pretty damn good for the Bucks. Could develop. Still looks like a high schooler. Like he looked – out of all these college guys and everything else coming up, A.J. Johnson looks like a little kid. He still does. He just looks so young, which is very promising because he's busting some of their ass. So he's shooting the three. He's attacking the cup. He's playing fun. Reminds me a bit of Hamidou Diallo. Let's see if he can develop past Hamidou, because right now I think that's kind of what He's going to offer you some spark plug, some energy, athleticism, youth, mistakes, bad hands, things like that. We already talked about Sarr. He's averaging 30 minutes per game, 5 points, 1 free throw attempt per game. I can't speak lower of the guy. He's shooting 50% from the free throw line, so he's making a half a free throw a game. It's really gross. Moving on to Livingston, we'll talk about another Buck player, Chris Livingston. He's playing a lot better, statistically a lot better. He's minus 14. All the Bucks players are in the negative, plus or minus. They're just not a great collective team. Beauchamp isn't really developing and getting the confidence. I seen that his rookie year. You know, he looks like a guy who actually battles like anxiety and confidence issues pregame. And he kind of looks like it. He looks like he's got the jitters, the yips. And I'm actually out on Beauchamp. I was sold on him being like a Trevor Ariza type player in the league. And, you know, he just doesn't have that, like, FU mentality, you know? Like, he doesn't give a shit who's in front of him. He does give a shit who's in front of him, and that's a problem. So I'm out on Beauchamp. Just is what it is. I wanted to be in on Marjon Beauchamp, but I'm sold in the bad way. I'm selling all his stock. I'm off Beauchamp Island. I've sold my house. I've sold my acreage, all of it. Beauchamp, I'm out on you. Minus 17. While like Jaquez is like plus 14. Anthony Black plus 15. Josh Christopher plus 16 on the Heat as well. Great player, complete guard right now. Let's see what he does in the league. But he's going to get a contract. What he did in Summer League was very impressive. Scottie Pippen Jr., another one, plus 18. Just looking like a pro. Playing great. Not making the stupid mistakes anymore. Just being a vet, and I think he's showing how mature he is and what he could be as a role guy coming off the bench on a potential successful, maybe a middle-of-the-pack squad in the league. You can come on and be a productive player. Shout out to Scottie Pippen Jr. He's doing his thing. Risa Shea looks like shit. Not the best. I'm not saying he's a bust already, but he's like minus 15 or something. What is he? Let me see. I wrote this down somewhere. Minus 13. Just didn't look overall impressive. Didn't look like a first-round pick. Didn't look dominant with the ball. He made a couple solid passes, though. He did this like underhand scoop lob. I thought that showed some coordination, some sense. Also, it could be looked at as very sloppy with a better defense. And I think that's something that we should keep an eye on. He's not going to create that much on the Hawks. Got to think about that too. He's just got seniority and everything else. Guys got that over him. So I just don't see him being like a ball handler his rookie year. And we'll have to see where that goes and what he'll develop into. Maybe develop some bad habits, being more off ball, being more passive. Who knows? But we got to see maybe potentially DeAndre Hunter on the move. They have a lot of wings. There's still a glut of guys. Are you going to start Risa Shea over Jalen Johnson? Right. We know that's rhetorical. That'll never happen. What else? Risa Shea. Oh, we got Bronny, obviously, and Maxwell Lewis, both on the Lakers. They're both minus 10, minus 11. And Maxwell Lewis, at times, he looks like an NBA scorer. Like he's got some moves. Let's see if he could apply them in a real game. You know, whenever he looks good going to the cup, he'll get fouled. And, you know, he'll never beat that defender the way he should. And I worry about that. My biggest worries are, along with Beauchamp, I'll get to this. My biggest worry is going to come after this guy. Andre Jackson Jr., minus 12. He's known as a defender. He's got crazy bounce. But, bro, he just gets moved off his spot. He's always getting bumped out of the lane, getting bumped out of the way. Like, I know he's a really high vertical jumper, but he's just too low, like in weight. And I don't know. He's just too light. I mean, too low, too light in weight. I don't like it. He gets pushed off his spot. Buzelis was bullying him. I witnessed it. Buzelis was giving him shoulders to get to the cup, finishing strong. And I'm like, Buzelis is doing this to you, bro? Everyone's talking all this shit about Buzelis and he fell in the draft and he's too skinny and all this shit. Dude's strong. If you see Buzelis' legs, his calves are so much wider than his knees. Like he's really like got some good muscle to him. So he's a pretty strong guy. But Andre Jackson Jr. should really be strong as well. He's had a full year to develop NBA strength. He played at UConn. You'd think he had like some sort of strength training, but he's just getting bumped off his spot. I don't know if that's just his form or whatever, but to be known as this lockdown shooter, this elite lockdown defender, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't see it with Andre Jackson Jr. I just don't know if he could be that. And we've gotten sold 2 years in a row on guys that are supposed to be lockdown wings, 6'7", 6'8", lockdown wings. Andre Jackson is not that right now. Marjon Beauchamp is not that right now. But the biggest letdown of Summer League, worse than Sarr, because I knew Sarr was a bum. I knew that. It's Isaiah Collier. He's averaging 9%. 9% from the three-point line on 3 attempts per game. 9%? He's averaging like 0.3 makes. It's gross. And on top of it, he's averaging over 4 turnovers a game for averaging 4 assists per game. So he's got a 1-to-1 turnover ratio, but it's fucking ugly. Ugly. 1-to-1 on 4.5 assists to 4.5 turnovers. Ugh. The efficiency is just terrible. I want nothing to do with Isaiah Collier going forward. I didn't even own stock. I was thinking about it. It was on my watch list, and I've taken Isaiah Collier off my watch list. He may have a good hot game throughout the season. He might look good one night. I'm not convinced. Granted, he's only played a few Summer League games, but it's looked so bad. So bad. I don't like what I'm seeing from him. The efficiency is not there. He just looks like an inefficient hooper. Somebody that's got moves, somebody that's got some physicality to him. But the modern game is just not, working with his game. And his game is just not there. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. I think there's guys who I see that I think would even do better than him. Like, there's a guy I kind of comped to him a while back, Jared Terrell. If you know who Jared Terrell is, he played at URI. He was a really solid guard. And then he kind of bounced around in Summer League, G League, never really cracked an NBA roster, and, just playing overseas and stuff. Another one, Melo Trimble, is someone that I thought, was decent and everything else, and I think he would produce at a higher clip than Isaiah Collier. If you remember, Melo Trimble was a point guard out of Maryland, 6'2" guy. They worried about his efficiency, him just putting up shots and everything else. I think those two guys, Melo Trimble and him, are better. Jared Terrell are better than Isaiah Collier. If you don't pay attention to past mock drafts, even mock drafts from 8-10 years ago, that's where I would compare him to, and I would say he's probably worse than them. Because I actually thought they could have had a chance and actually showed other things other than scoring. But yeah, Collier in the dumps, in the absolute dumps. So overall, we talked about the Sun trade. I think the Sky get a thumbs up. The Sun get 2 thumbs up. The Sun are increasing their volume from 3, which they've had some offensive problems. They have some point production issues, and sometimes it's a math problem. Your only 3-point shooter, Ty Harris on low volume, high efficiency, and then you got Bonner, who's high volume, low efficiency, and those are your 2 girls to rely on. Now you got Mabry, high volume, high efficiency. That's what you need from a shooter, even if it's coming off the bench, and she could do this 6-man type thing. Huge win for them now. They only trade back a few spots in the draft to get Marina Mabry and trade 2 people, Mo Jeff, who has never even played really this season, and then Banham, who can't crack the lineup. She cracked Right before the trade, she cracked the lineup and was told to gun. So, if anything, they gave her some minutes. They wanted to kind of show the sky, and they wanted to show her that she still got it. She's not a scrub, but that just is what it is. She's a late career three-point shooter, and it just is what it is. That's just who she is now. You know, like you're trading for Joe Ingles on high volume. Like, you're not trading for a star. You're not even trading for a great role player. You're trading for a vet that could space and be a good role model and show your other team, her teammates and your players, to just how to be a pro. Because that's what Banham really is. She's a great pro. She's been great off the bench, and she's made a career being a bench scorer. If you could stay in the league for over 8 years being a bench player and never starting, that means you have high character. It means you try hard. That means you actually produce efficiently when you get on the court. Not at a star level, but like I said, you buy into your role, you're coachable, and you're probably just good off the court. And that's Banham. So, I mean, you're getting a high character player going into the Sky. I think they need some good veteran leadership there. And then you also bring in Mo Jeff, who's a dog. She's undersized. She's always been small, always been skinny. But the IQ is there. She plays hard. And she shoots threes too. So, you're getting some spacing. Obviously, you're not getting Marina Mabry spacing. But you're still not losing three-point shooters in comparison to the Kennedy Carters, the Diamond DeShields, the Michaelas, the Cardozo, Brianna Turner, Angel Reese, Elizabeth Williams. None of these people could shoot except Dana Evans. So, shout out to the Sky. You still kept three-point shooters, probably players that aren't even going to really play this season. But hopefully maybe just give the defense a good look and practice. And who knows? I mean, like I said, they could play. I just don't know if they're going to break in the starting lineup. You're going to replace Mariah Jefferson with Lindsey Allen, who's earned it. Dana Evans, who's earned it and has been there. Kennedy Carter, who's earned it and been there. You're going to put Banham over her? Hell no. So it is what it is. They traded for probably a little bit of cap flexibility because Marina Mabry was the highest paid player on the Sky. Now I believe it's Brianna Turner. Brianna Turner was the worst contract that I said. So now you have the Sky loading up on bad contracts. You have $140,000 to Mariah Jefferson and $150,000 to Brianna Turner, two players that probably won't even get on the court. Just keeping it real. So you got $300,000 in dead cap, and they're just building towards the future. So hopefully they can maybe grab Paige Beckers next year. I'm not really high on Haley Van Lith. People are. Good for you. I hope your team drafts her, and I hope she does all right. But for my opinion, she is not a WNBA success story. She may be in the USA 3-on-3. She may be in college. She may be decent. But I'll tell you right now, Haley Van Lith will not be a good WNBA player. So take that for what it is. I think the Suns should tank for 2027. In a few years, once all these contracts fall off the books, which I've already stated, get your eyes on 2027 pick and land Juju Watkins. Hopefully you keep Dejounte Carrington. Hopefully you keep Marina Mabry. Then you bring in Juju Watkins in the future, and she's the Sun player of the future. So that's the goal. Hopefully that does happen. But thank you so much for tuning in, guys. If there is anything else in here that you like to talk about, let me know. I'm about to close up, though. So we probably got another minute. We could talk about what's an interesting topic. Who Jake Paul fights next? I'll save, like I said, I'll save it 1 minute left in the comments. If you have any other thing, who's Jake Paul fighting next? Who's Conor McGregor fighting next? There's just a lot of these entertainment fights that I'm waiting to see. Will McGregor come back, fight Chandler? Will he fight Nate Diaz? Will Jake Paul get in the ring and fight Nate Diaz? Nick Diaz is coming back, but he canceled his fight. I thought he was going to get his ass busted by Luque. But yeah, all right. No more questions. Thank you so much for tuning in to ISO Cam, a too generic special. So Ritchie will be back next week. He had some overtime. The Microsoft thing happened. Amazon's computers crashed. Now the Amazon workers are working overtime. So thank your Amazon delivery driver if he hands you a package. They're working overtime because of Bill Gates and all the issues he causes throughout the world. So shout out to Ritchie. He'll tune in and listen. But again, thank you so much for tuning in. It was a great time. And we're out of here, guys. That's about it. Too generic. Next Sunday, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So 11 to 8. See you guys. Thanks for tuning in.